Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're diving straight into the incredibly intricate, frankly terrifying lore of Eagles Junior High School. We are going to look at how one woman, a grieving mother, somehow managed to build an inescapable industrial nightmare right under the nose of the outside world. This isn't just your standard ghost story. It's a massive epic covering corrupted science, tragic architecture, and a full-blown demonic cult. Let's get right into it. So here's our roadmap for today. We're starting with the shattered mother, then moving into flesh and science, exploring the architect's curse, stepping inside the mask factory, and wrapping it all up with breaking the curse.
Part 1. The Shattered Mother.
Okay, the psychological catalyst for this entire franchise. It begins with a really profound loss. Before there was this terrifying monster, there was just Sister Madeline, and her sanity completely shattered years ago when her beloved daughter Elisa passed away. That tragedy left this massive psychological void. And within months, traditional faith just wasn't cutting it. It couldn't fill that void. And her grief festered into this absolute obsession with resurrection. This pure desperation actually drove her to abandon standard theology altogether. And she started seeking out much darker, completely forbidden methods to bring her daughter back. And, well, that's what leads us directly to the dawn of the cult. Because as it turns out, there was an entity waiting right at the end of her despair, this ancient demon, Nazrat. And Nazrat preyed entirely on her grief. It offered her that elusive power of resurrection, but it demanded a horrific price to ground its power in our physical world. In exchange for this forbidden knowledge, Madeline pledged absolute submission. She promised to harvest the souls of innocent children. And to carry out this really dark work, she completely took over Eagles Junior High School, twisting an everyday educational institution into a front for her fanatical mission.
Which brings us to Part 2. Flesh and Science, also known as the Origins Era.
During this time, the school basically operated as a bizarre rogue laboratory. See, Madeline didn't just rely on blind faith to build her fortress. She actually partnered up with the brilliant but completely unprincipled Dr. Albert Dumond. Together, they started creating these grotesque biological deterrents to guard the campus. I mean, they literally bred giant, highly aggressive mutant chickens to act as living security alarms. Yeah, mutant chickens. Talk about a crazy choice for school security. They also engineered Gummy, this massive, deformed brute with skin that looked like melted wax, who just mindlessly patrolled the deeper hallways. But most disturbingly of all, hidden deep within this chaotic fortress was a mysterious young girl who was serving as the literal human vessel for the demon Nazrat. Now, the absolute foundation for all of Dr. Dumond's unnatural experiments was a highly volatile compound known as the blue substance. Imagine this, a chemical synthesized deep down in subterranean labs, potent enough to drastically mutate biological life and completely alter consciousness. This was the dark science that was effectively keeping these captive children under control and fueling all of the cult's bizarre bioweapons. But the cult made a critical mistake. They captured a highly resourceful young boy named Linus, and Linus actually managed to strike the very first real blow against them by using their own chemistry against them. Imagine being a kid trapped in this rogue laboratory and having to literally synthesize toxic compounds just to survive. It's wild. Linus solved these really intricate environmental puzzles, neutralized the mutant threats, including that massive gummy we talked about, and exposed the school's experimental roots before making this epic grand escape. But here's the thing, while Linus got out, Madeline's reign was far from over. That leads us right into Part 3, the Architect's Curse. So, following Linus's dramatic escape, the cult suddenly realized that relying on biological deterrents just wasn't enough anymore. The whole scientific facade started to fade away. Madeline abducted an exceptionally talented architect and inventor named Joseph, and under the threat of brutal physical torture and straight-up spiritual damnation, she weaponized his brilliance. She forced him to transform the school from a chaotic lab into a meticulously calculated, inescapable mechanical prison. It's so tragic. As the lore notes, his genius became his own prison and the undoing of countless children who would come after him. Joseph was forced to design an absolute nightmare. We're talking elaborate gear mechanisms, hidden sliding walls, wildly complex lock systems, and pressure plate traps. He divided the sprawling campus into these heavily sealed, high-security zones. Basically, Madeline took Joseph's incredible gift for creation and completely twisted it into an endless game of cat and mouse. She was making absolutely sure that no child could ever replicate Linus's grand escape. Moving into Part 4, Inside the Mask Factory, or the Broken Mask.
during this specific period, the school's industrial output just exploded. It grew into this deeply corrupt, massive economic engine. Down in the roaring industrial factories, these captive children were forced under the whip to forge stylized religious masks. This violently stripped away their individuality, basically rendering them compliant slaves. Then, these artifacts were sold in external black markets to wealthy, totally corrupt patrons. And that money? It funded the massive infrastructure of the school and bought the cult total immunity from any outside authorities. And whatever experiments failed, well, they were quietly disposed of deep in the toxic flooded sewers, completely hiding the evidence of their demonic rot from the world up above.
The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that these holy masks were a complete lie. The religious iconography was nothing more than an illusion of righteousness. It was specifically designed to hide a deeply entrenched system of spiritual and physical abuse. So the title, The Broken Mask, signifies the ultimate shattering of that fake holy facade. And finally, Part 5, Breaking the Curse. By this time, Madeline had completely surrendered to the demon. She wasn't just some severe headmistress anymore. She had transformed into this towering, pale-skinned, supernaturally fast monster, wielding a massive spiked wooden sledgehammer. It's actually fascinating to contrast the two boys who managed to beat this crazy system. You've got Linus, back in the early Origins era, who relied heavily on mastering chemistry. But William Birch, he was trapped during the peak of the cult era, facing a literal demon. He couldn't fight Madeline head-on. He had to use pure stealth. He had to exploit Joseph's vertical architecture, literally crawling through ventilation shafts and dumbwaiters just to stay alive. William quickly learned that Madeline was preparing for this final, grand ritual to drain the life force of the captive children and finally actually resurrect her daughter, Elisa. To stop her, he had to pull off this harrowing, multi-stage strategy across the entire campus. He was exploiting the architecture, disabling the roaring heavy machinery down in those mask factories, braving the pitch-black flooded sewers, and systematically locating and destroying the ritualistic altars that were anchoring the demonic curse. What is truly incredible about William's success is that he didn't do it alone. By relying on the remnants left behind by previous lost souls, he painstakingly pieced together multiple daring escape routes to finally breach Joseph's mechanical maze. Whether it was scavenging parts to repair this old hidden van, somehow assembling a makeshift hot air balloon right in the courtyard, or electrically bypassing those colossal main gates, William used every single ounce of human ingenuity to fight back against absolute supernatural malice. By systematically destroying those altars and exposing the horrible truth of Joseph's forced labor, William completely shattered the supernatural shroud that kept the school invisible to the outside world. Through sheer grit and pure resilience, he broke the physical and spiritual curse binding the institution. He escaped into the night, leaving nothing but a ruined, hollow shell behind him. Sister Madeline's horrific empire was finally, permanently dismantled. Ultimately, this whole story shows that human resilience really can dismantle even the most entrenched systems of control. We watched a grieving mother twist into a demon, build an industrial nightmare, and then get defeated by the very children she sought to subjugate. But it leaves us with one deeply unsettling thought to chew on. If a mask of righteousness can hide so much demonic rot in plain sight, what unholy empires might be hiding right now behind our own walls? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning what you see.